Act 3 begins in a rather abrupt manner as Xivu Arath manifests a projection of herself while we are patrolling the Dreadnought.
I am strife. I am death. I am Xivu Arath, and I am your end. Your false god cowers in her cyst world, scheming to profane a true throne. Defy me. Lift your blade to mine. Let their edges clash and keen and sing. Raise a head to the god of war.
I take this act as an official declaration of war. This is a neat cutscene that properly introduces Xivu's ever-growing malice towards us directly. Us being loaded into orbit after the cutscene in not the new nether area this takes place in is a bit odd though. After that, we meet up with Eris in her throne world, where she converses with the Echo of the Navigator.
Your sisters seek to reclaim you. They would carve you into the brother they remember.
The Inquisition of the Self. Heresy. They have changed too much.
For love, a sister would do more than heresy.
Not love. Without our war, without me, they have found failure instead of victory.
You were slain. Do you think your killer, my truest knife, could not do the same again?
A bold claim. You barely hold me here. Though your throne reeks of a familiar ichor.
Savathun, dead by my hand. Xivu Arath, cut from her throne. These are my foundations. You think I barely hold you. Test me, and find how I have used your sister's strength.
I promise that I will. To break your chains with my own might would be a new triumph.
Then prove it is your own might. A victory while I am distracted by Xivu Arath is worth nothing at all.
She would cleave your throne world for my dreadnought to steal me.
By rituals of battle, I presume. I have dealt with them before.
I've not seen these deeds. Not yours, nor those of the Guardian you wield as knife. Xivu Arath must choose an altar rich with violence. Triumph again. I await it.
Guardian, there is a place deep in the Dreadnought that I know. You must halt what Xivu Arath has begun. Or she may yet claim her prize.
The Echo of the Navigator continues to deviate even further from the Oryx that is more familiar to us. The entire reason Oryx waged war on us was because we felt his son, Crota, a level of sentimentality that hadn't quite developed by the time Oryx slayed the worm god Akka. As he pointed out himself, the Echo will never have to go through the same series of events that the Oryx we knew did, but it will have to deal with the consequences of his past future self's failure and how that, in turn, affected his sisters. Eris brings up how these heretical acts are the least of the actions Xivu, and especially Savathun, would take. The Echo of Navigation refutes the concept of the love his sisters hold for him, but it's still hard for him to deny the relationship, as even though we slayed Oryx and Eris captured the Echo, he still tries to cast shade on our power and wishes for us to win in a clash against Xivu and her forces. Of course, he can't just outright admit that he can't win against us, as that would go against his very own sword logic, but the longer he's trapped and the more we showcase our prowess, the more his logic will continue to falter. A heresy the Echo will have to confront sooner rather than later. After the conversation, Eris informs us of a location deep within the Dreadnought that Xivu's forces are currently sieging. More specifically, Xivu Arath is enacting a ritual to tear into Eris's throne world, similar to, how we did. So stopping this procedure kills two birds with one strike. This introduces us to the reprised Sunless cell. I never played the original, so while going through it, I will talk about what is there, but I can't talk about the differences. In orbit, Eris fills us in on how and why Oryx created this prison network.
Once, These cells were kept by Oryx. He imprisoned defeated enemies and discarded progeny to be stripped for chitin and repurposed into something useful. Now this prison is occupied by the Taken, and Xivu Arath's hive come to bring the war to them.
The part that is a bit unclear is who the current Taken belonged to. This either happened when Oryx became the Taken King, or are the Taken that belong to the new mysterious force hidden within the deep. We're dropped into the mausoleum and have to traverse through parts of the Dreadnought before actually reaching the cells. This helps in making the new area feel cohesive to the ship as a whole, and don't worry, I will be filling in for the missing voice lines. As we stumble across the first of Xivu's hive, Sloane contacts us. No matter how we slice it, Xivu Wrath gains power from fighting. We're in a poor position to start. Xivu Wrath constantly growing from this conflict is spooky, but a bit of a downplay of what we're able to accomplish. Be efficient, strike fast. Disrupt her ritual before it can gain traction. This addresses the previously mentioned problem while clarifying our mission objective and strategy. We need to prioritize speed and efficiency in order to prevent Xivu from maximizing her gains as we battle her brood. Xivu seems to have wired tapped into our comms though, as she just casually butts in. I know your tactics as the blade knows the meat of offering. I am with you all along. Sloane says ignore her. This is a situation where we know how Xivu gains power, and she knows that we know the best way to mitigate this. We know each other's game plans, and now it's all about the execution. We eventually make our way to the founts. Xivu, instrument of war, bring me a feast. This is just a basic command. Sloane, her forces glory in these fights. They build tides in battle, not only victory. Cut them short. I think it should probably be gain glory in these fights, so there is a minor mistake there, but other than that, Sloane is just reinforcing the idea of why we need to go fast. This concept partially manifests itself in the gameplay through the channelers of terror and them conjuring taken eyes that inflict ever-increasing stacks of suffocating terror. After taking care of them, the previous locked room door is open.
What an elegant piece of violence.
I see Xivu Arath's ritual proceeds apace. If you reach beyond your own prison.
So it does. And I see you are familiar with the art of fighting our god of war. You cut her battle short, blunt, but respectable. I have in my time done the same.
I am well aware.
The echo of the navigator chimes in and pseudo compliments us for figuring out the best tactic to counter Xivu Wrath. Deca uses this moment as a platform to boast about its previous accomplishments in a rather self-congratulatory manner, events that we are completely aware of. Sloane contacts us moments later, Taken putting up walls after the hive are already in. That's not late, that's strategy. They're up to something. Hive or Dread, doesn't matter. Take them down while they're off balance. This is just a reminder that the Taken are up to some shenanigans, where the motive is still completely unknown to us.
What a killing floor this would be.
After the dialogue ends, we enter an open area and reach the prison's main gates. They're currently closed, but are unsealed by us destroying a Taken blight on the left and right sides of the map. Reaching these blights requires a bit of jumping on some moving platforms, but it's not a jumping puzzle. The way back is a bit more annoying thanks to some Taken portals blasting us. This is conceptually fine, but I wish this jumping section was extended with more platforms and more adds if there wasn't going to be any mechanic attached. We pass through the doors only for the Custodian of Terror to stand in our way for like 5 seconds. The Taken to burst down before he can even attack. I know this is at the 1965 power cap, but surely we can handle Nightfall difficulty strikes for the first time 10 years in. While bossing through everything is the goal, having the first clear be a speedrun weakens impact that the strike is trying to convey, at least in terms of the story. If they don't want to force it, it would be neat if we at least have the option of playing it on a higher difficulty our first time there. We would defeat a consumed ogre before delving even deeper.
Oh, I do see why she likes you.
Nothing more than pockets of battle here. You must keep going deeper still.
The deepest part of this prison has seen the most death. the most suffering.
If you cannot bring yourself to provide something useful, be quiet.
Useful. The Dreadnought was made after my memory. But I understand the flow of energy here. You're running out of time.
The Echo of Navigation and Eris have a bit of a banter as we reach a shrieker-filled room. The hive lanterns on the way here and decorating this room are a nice touch. Eris doesn't want to hear from the Echo unless it says something useful, but Oryx is confident that everything he says is useful because the Dreadnought was created from his memories. This prompts him to inform us that we're running out of time. I wish the story element was tied in with the gameplay a bit more, specifically the whole time mechanic and how we need to go fast. It would be cool if there was a timer mechanic that changed leniency according to the selected difficulty, or if depending on how fast we went, we gain more rewards or something. After Chaos reaching a taken warden, we reach a bridge connecting us to the deepest part of the prison. Visually, this area looks fantastic thanks to the presented scale. I will say though, through a cursory glance, it does look like we can go much deeper. After that, we rally before dropping down into the Hangless Crypts.
There! You are there! The Hive and the Taken, and the ritual between them. The hilt of the Willbreaker. By the relic of a brother's sword, Xivu Thoughts would cleave the Dreadnought from my throne.
Sloan, Willbreakers, we need that hilt. Guardian, get shooting. And the reason for why Xivu Thoughts' forces were at this location is now revealed. Either Xivu brought the hilt of the Willbreaker to this location, or this is where it was the entire time. In any case, this location has deep ties to Oryx's past, as this is where we killed Oryx's foster son, Alakul, the Darkblade, in Destiny 1. The fact that Oryx once adopted a member of the Hive continues to showcase just how much someone can change due to the passage of time. The current Echo of the Navigator would no doubt view this as a heresy. This is where we commence our battle against Obakul in prison. They don't exist on Disneypedia, and Ishtar Collective shows no matches in any of the lore pages, so this is an entirely new character. Obakul shares a similar name composition to Alakul, which is obviously on purpose, and creates room for speculation. They could be related, or perhaps the relationship each one shared to the respective Hive god results in the Hive whole honorific, indicating their adopted status. The Echo of Navigation drops some lines that probably carry a rather intense lore implication.
You treat the Taken as something apart from the Hive. They do have other species among their number, but it was I who made them. They are Hive, and their newfound curiosities serve me well.
We believe that the Taken differ from the Hive, especially since there are Taken decks, taking a ball, etc. But due to Taken only taking shape due to Oryx, he believes that all Taken are inherently Hive. I don't think the writers would include that line for no reason, so it seems like it might have some implications, probably for the Echo somehow. Either that or it, I don't know, ties to some ancient lore that I haven't read yet. The Echo says their newfound curiosity serve him well. This, combined with the fact that there's a new taker in the deep, is rather curious. I wonder if that's how the Echo will break out of Eris's throne world, or possibly accidentally create a rift that leads into it. I wish I could speculate on the deeper meaning of this some more, but I'm afraid I'm currently in the dark. I've read some people say that the Sunless cell isn't dark enough, and that can probably be attributed to Destiny 2's improved lighting. I don't think just making this fight darker would have made it more engaging or added any value due to having experienced the Ascendant Plane effect. However, if the darkness was tied to a mechanic, such as lighting the lanterns on the floor, then I would totally be down for that added visual layer.
Good. You've disrupted the ritual, but something else has stepped into the gap.
This is not my taking. Knife of my slaying. To arms.
You have no authority here.
After beaming Obakul, the imprisoned, they shell up and let themselves become Taken, after realizing that they cannot win this fight without the extra power. From what I understand about being Taken, this is clearly some sort of Faustian bargain that alters the will of the individual. This matters because the Echo notes that this taking is not his, which kind of implies that they can still take. This might also imply that this is a new type of Taken that isn't Hive, but I'm not sure about that one. Funnily enough, the Echo then commands us to take down the newly transformed Oba. Besides annoying Eris for taking our line, this obvious bias towards us seems heretical when you consider the story logic the Echo is supposed to follow. Sloan notes that taking down the Darkblade won't empower Xivu Arath, and cuts the chatter. Each boss is basically one phase of the whole encounter, and Oba switching its moveset halfway through is a neat gimmick. So I can't help but feel that there being no mechanic at all is a bit of a shame. Something like us having to stand in certain spots to maintain our control of Willbreaker's hilt over Xivu could have worked thematically. Sloan notes that there are no more Hive in the area after felling Oba, but that in itself seems wrong. Eris follows up by mentioning how this was a major victory, even if the low difficulty did not aid that feeling at all. Us now possessing the hilt of Willbreaker is kind of a major deal and plays into how we forged a relic from the shards of Willbreaker from the previous act to also break into Eris' Stone World. With us having this many pieces, it's clear that we will soon recreate Oryx's sword, which is sure to have some major complications arise when we do. Also, fun fact, the seasonal logo attached to the hilt of Willbreaker, which is a green item by the way, belong to the final shape and not the current episode of Heresy. I don't think that this has any deeper meaning. I just think it's proof that these episodes are planned for in advance and take a while to work through. It does kind of clue us into Willbreaker probably being essential, but it would be kind of hard for us to guess otherwise considering its importance overall. Sloan checks up with Eris on the Echo status, and he is secure for now.
Now we have won, and we have Willbreaker's hilt. He's secure, discontented, but held fast. Do you hear him? Do you hear him intervening any further? He is secure.
Sloan seems to hesitate before saying that she trusts Eris, but believes that taking the Echo's advice is the riskiest thing she's done.
I have him. I have him.
If this were Savathun, I would probably be a little bit more sympathetic to Sloan. However, I don't think Oryx is trying to knock any trickery here. I know Sloan and Asa are quite wary, but when it comes to matters of the Hive, Eris is almost certainly second to none, especially at this point. Eris does end the conversation by repeating the phrase, I have him. I have him. However, the vocal delivery is quite calm and leads me to think that this is a continuation of contrasting the themes of how Eris used to be filled with doubt and nightmares, but can now actually believe in herself. With Willbreaker's hilt in hand and Xivu's ritual halted, we have some time to extract our vengeance? I initially thought that this was a typo since exacting our vengeance makes a bit more sense, but the word extract is repeated, so we return to the shaping slab and can pick up a few vengeance quests.
Something is stirring in the Hive, as it is in the Taken. New aspirations ripple through the ascendant plane. They converge upon Oryx and my throne. They do so in vengeance, a war in my court. I must accept. I ask my knife to fell their champions, desecrate their logic, and carve disorder. These writs I have left you will guide your blade. Together, we cannot fail.
These are RuneScape Slayer style code quests that have us kill foes in a certain manner, while fitting in with the flavor of us empowering Eris through multiple means. Disrupting Xivu and Savathun's forces so they're unable to focus on Eris and the Echo is the primary method, but these acts of vengeance are basically us tiding to her as well. The Writ Heir of Nothing notes that we destroy the challengers offering themselves as vessels in Oryx's Court of Blades. This not only weakens the Echo's power, but also infuriates Xivu Arath. Writ Misguided Vengeance has us collecting runes bearing Savathun's mark from our forces, and then planting them on the corpses of Xivu Arath's forces. This is actually really funny because of how blatantly transparent our actions should be in theory. And Writ Bloodied Blades just has us kill a bunch of Xivu's brute. My biggest complaint about these quests is that the best way to complete them as fast as possible to continue the story is almost certainly not the best or not even close to the best way to play the game. With the quest completed, the Echo scoffs at the failed efforts of his sisters and invites us to meet them in battle, while offering us an edge.
My proud sister reduced to this. Our joyful war nothing but a tantrum. Could you not taste it in the violence you just made your own? I took the power of my sisters to slay the Wormaka. Their true deaths, made in the sword world. There is no closer embrace. I drew Xivu Wrath and Savathun about myself, and their hunger was my own. But the betrayer-taken king gave their true lives back. Our sword logic, poisoned. My sisters now are hollow, blunted. His mercy made them so. I barely know them. So, you have forestalled Xivu Wrath. Her ritual scatters. This throne world and its chains stand. Knife of my slaying. You show your sharpness well.
From some memories that narrate some of the Bucks of Sorrow in the Dreadnought, I knew that Oryx felt his sisters in order to prove his logic strong enough to take on Akka. However, there was a bit of a knowledge gap from that point in time, the Savathun and Xivu still being alive. The Echo notes that these were true deaths made in the Sword World. I'm not sure if this is simply what Oryx calls Throne Worlds, or if the Sword World was specifically his Throne World. This distinction seems important because the Echo believes the Taken King gave Xivu and Savathun their lives back. The Echo calling his future past self the Betrayer, Taken King, also feels completely detached his current state of being and further solidifies that these two characters are not the same. He ends his musings by congratulating our prowess. I assume the edge he provided us with were the Willbreaker munitions mod, and not something he plans to gift us next week. With that, week 1 of Act 3 of Episode 3 has come to an end, and we only have 8 quest steps remaining. I'm not sure if this will then be followed up by another exotic mission, or if something wacky is gonna happen instead. I mean, we have so much to do, yet so little time. Forging Willbreaker, a head-to-head clash with Xivu, Savathun is still up to some nonsense, and we still don't know who the entity doing the taking in the deep is. We're at the end of the episode, so it seems like they will gain more relevance through Frontiers, with us obtaining curios of the 9 from the seasonal missions, and the Rite of the 9 event starting next month. I wouldn't be surprised if one of the 9 have managed to wriggle their way into the deep or something in order to gain a proper form. The flavor text of the new sidearm, Division, informs us of a discussion taking place between the 9 after our victory over the Witness. So something is clearly up with them, even more than what we currently might know. Like the lost lines are clearly a warning. I mourn unity, grieve coalition. Follow your foolishness. But if all you find is oblivion, and the peril of our children, we all perish. This sounds like one of the 90s singing form, but are reminded that their existence is still dependent on the life and soul